Welcome back, Wolfpack. Verlis here, and how to use one of my favorite competitive Pokemon, Snorlax. Snorlax is one of the main reasons why I'm a competitive battler. I remember just flipping through a strategy guide, saw Munchlax had a pre-evolution move with the Stockpile, looked up Stockpile, I was like, hey, that's kind of strong, why don't I put it on Snorlax? Then I immediately won like 5 tournaments in a row, and then I was like, hey, maybe I should get into this whole competitive battling thing. That might be really cool. So I started getting into it. It's mostly because of Snorlax, because it gave me the confidence to create new ideas, to come up with all these crazy strategies, because I'd never seen a Stockpile Snorlax before then. People were just kind of like, why are you using Stockpile and Snorlax? You should be doing other things like Curse or Belly Drum. I'm like, no, I know what works here. And then it just kind of became this unstoppable monster that let me go and grow other crazy strategies and just become a really strong, well-rounded player overall. So finally we're going to look at Snorlax's stats, because I have so much to say about how awesome Snorlax is. And its stats are really what make it that 160 hit points. That you don't have to put a lot of hit point investment to get the most out of a Snorlax. Honestly, you really just have to try to keep its special defense and defense up, and that just depends on how you want to play it. But overall, like, Snorlaxes can be an incredibly strong, just super sponge of damage that even with 110 special defense, it's going to take those special hits really well. And because of its typing, it's a normal type, which is really like the only fault here, because you're going to be weak against fighting, and fighting is generally only physical, but physical is where you're most susceptible. So by having that lower defense, it pretty much means a fighting type is going to be good night to you. But other than that, though, you can still endure some really good defensive hits once you start getting that stockpile going, and you can become just a very strong Pokemon. So let's hop into Pokemon Showdown and get to the root of this. Also, got the face cam because I freaking love Snorlax. So looking at all this that Snorlax has going for it, I love it so much that what I like doing is stockpile. Stockpile, stockpile, stockpile. Hey, wait, stockpile, stockpile. Yeah, it's 3 stockpiles, that's all you get. Boost your defenses 2.5 times, and then you just become unkillable. And I've been in positions where after I get 1 or 2 stockpiles, my opponent's only doing 20 of my 500 hit points every attack, which is why I decided, what if I do rest? Chesto Resto is an awesome combo because I get 1 stockpile off, I rest, back up to full health. Now they're still doing like a 3-4 hit KO on me. Stockpile, stockpile, rest, but by that point, I'm like a 10 hit KO. That I'm not getting knocked out for many times, so I can do my own thing after I rest. Then Belly Drum. Belly Drum, cut your attack in half. Very risky. This is like the power play where you have to crit to knock out Snorlax. So then this is where it gets interesting or awkward. Fire Punch, or a ton of other moves. That Snorlax gets access to all of the elemental punches. So we have, you know, Ice Punch, Thunder Punch, Fire Punch. You also get access to Crunch. There it is. There's Crunch and Body Slam, of course. Now, here's the problem. Pretty much all of those options are very limiting in some way. That if you have Fire Punch, you can get walled out by a Flash Fire Pokemon. It's happened to me before, so I started using Crunch. But with Crunch, you get walled out by really tanky Pokemon like Heatran or Ferrothorn, and they're starting to become really popular, so it just creates a really hard dynamic. That if you have Body Slam, a Ghost type, and your whole strategy goes out the window as well. So the problem here is, like, you need to make that last move count. I eventually just finally settled on Crunch. Eventually, I'll have a chance to lower their defenses quite a bit, and maybe, just maybe, I'll be able to whittle through them just enough. And then, in the other side of it, though, if I had Fire Punch, that means, you know, Scizor. Scizor also gives me a huge problem because it can just out-Swords Dance me and then go into a superpower. With Fire Punch, Scizor's not a problem, Ferrothorn's not a problem, but then a Flash Fire Pokemon just ends my day. So it's I always switch between those two mostly, and then Ice Punch is really good for dragons. Thunder Punch gets walled out by ground, so it's really just a hard decision in the end. With the EVs though, I was thinking like hit points on Snorlax, since they're so high, you don't need as much hit point investment, which means try to get the most out of those defenses and whatever you can in the special defense. Also, if you're really worried about the defenses, right here I have a Careful Nature, but if you're maxing out your defenses, you can go for the Impish Nature. That way you're just getting a little more into your defense. That the way that natures work is it's 10% of the base value gets added with a beneficial nature. So technically I would be getting more points overall in my Pokemon with this special defense nature, but if you really want to go into the defenses so that way you don't get knocked out, you can go with a lesser nature into the higher defense just to make sure you get the most out of it, and it can still pay off because now I'm going to be able to survive a bit better on those defensive hits, and my special defense is still already higher. Still a really good amount of hit points. Stockpile, win the game. But there's also many other ways of running Snorlax, that this is kind of the same idea, except it gives you Power Punch, So it adds coverage, and it doesn't put you at risk. It takes longer to set up, which makes you more susceptible. Like, really, the only way I say that, like, here's how I describe Snorlax. If you get set up, there's only a 6.25 chance to lose, and that's just that straight crit. So pretty much, like, the only way to beat Snorlax once it's set up is critting it. So I like to just get that Belly Drum out of the way, and then, like, one-hit KO my opponents with max attack crunches and stuff. With Power Punch, it takes a little longer to set up, but it is more reliable because now you have fighting coverage. You can get a little more, you can get away more with the crunch or the Fire Punch, and then stockpile rest. It's the same idea, Chesto Berry, and same EVs would work out as well. Just, this is new. I didn't really think about this until halfway through 6th gen, where I was like, wait a second, I don't have to risk the Belly Drum. And even if I'm, like, even if you're really getting hit up hard, like, there's sometimes where you get into situations where you're 4-hit KO. So you rest, you get hit, you wake up, you do an attack, and then you rest the next turn. And that'll happen quite a bit. Power Punch this could work really well with. It kind of minimizes the options for Belly Drum. I haven't run this too much, but from the times I have run it, I've really enjoyed it. And it's hard to, old habits die hard, I guess. That this is probably maybe the better strategy, but I just love the Belly Drum because you wake up with that Belly Drum, your opponent doesn't know what to do, and then you just go and win instantly. After that, there's also the Curse set. Curse, Amnesia, Rest, Body Slam. Again, this is just kind of showing that other coverage, whatever you want to put here. With this set, I would kind of just go with this EV spread, because you don't have to put as much into special defense with the Amnesia. That Amnesia is making it to where you're boosting your special defense by 2 instead of 1 from the stockpile. So if there's a special Pokemon, this is actually a stronger strategy because you set up faster. It's a physical Pokemon. It's kind of the same in worse in some ways, because if they bring out a really hard-hitting special attacker after you've already set up Cursed without any Amnesia, you're kind of vulnerable, and vice versa on the Amnesia. The reason why I like Stockpile is because you're ready for everything. That as you're stockpiling, they can't safely switch into you because you're walling both types. But with this, you can kind of set up against one better than the other. And then on top of that, you just have Rest. And Curse is kind of going to be like a Power-Up Punch mixed with a Stockpile. They use a couple Curses. You can kind of just pull the switch like, 4 Curses, that's enough attack, and then just start beating your opponent into the ground. It works like that as well. Also, there's just a hardcore, full-on Curse set that what you want to do is you want to get more special defense investment, good amount of hit point investment, and then whatever you can on the defense, and then just all-out Curse. Now, you could also just go for the max and max, but the reason why I don't like always maxing it out is because sometimes you lose overall durability. Now, I was running some damage calculators, and by going 200-200, you actually gain about 3% effective health. Like, it takes 3% more damage to knock you out, which, while it doesn't sound like a lot, it's still a more efficient Pokemon. Mostly because, since the hit point stat is so high and the special defense stat is so high, you're not getting a very high effective health gain. That 460 to 511, that's only a boost of 10%. Whereas going from 166 to 193, that's a boost of like 20% for only 100 EVs compared to a 10% boost on the 200 EVs. So it scales in that kind of regard, which is why I try to find those little points where, well, look at how high those hit points are. You don't have to put as much investment or you put more investment to get a smaller gain. And then with the lower stats, you can get more out of it. But then you also have to make that with the decision on going for a careful nature. Because since you're not maxing out your defenses, there's no point in getting any extra. Because what you could do is just give yourself less special defense EVs, and then that careful nature, and then you'll get more defense out of it. So, math. That's Pokemon. And then with this, it does free up an extra move slot. So this is where you can get away with Body Slam. You're walled out by Ghost. Crunch, you're going to hit Ghost super effectively. Now you're going to be doing a lot better. Still have some steel threats, but at least you have a really good chance to paralyze the target. And I just like that Chesto Resto. Then on top of that, people can just run high hit points, high attack, max out that attack. I mean, you still have a 110 attack. So use that. And then you have insane amount of coverage. You have Heavy Slam for Steel, Fire Punch, Ice Punch, Body Slam. Also, Heavy Slam can work in any of these sets as well. And then with Citrus Berry, you're just going to kind of be like, hey, I'm a 3-4 hit KO Pokemon. I'm going to get hit, absorb that damage, and then just brutally murder you on the way back with something that hopefully hits super effective. Like, a 350 attack hitting super effective is going to do some damage and be a 2-hit KO or potentially a 1-hit KO depending on the Pokemon. And if you get that paralyzed on a Body Slam, that could be really nice too. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. One of my favorite Pokemon. As you can see, I can talk about Snorlax forever. That Snorlax was one of my main Pokemon. Snorlax is one of the Pokemon I'm the most studied in, I guess is a way of saying it. So I can say a lot more about Snorlax than a lot of other Pokemon I've just been reviewing. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. That's how you use Snorlax. I enjoy my Snorlax.